Joining me now is Senator Tammy Duckworth, a Democrat of Illinois. Let me start with this. Do you think that Republicans have changed their minds on this because of the polling? Do you think they're trying to obscure their real view of this? Which do you think is closer to the truth?
They're trying to obscure their real view on this, and they've been fighting very hard to ban abortion and to bring down Roe v. Wade for all of these years. But many of them never realized what it was going to mean for very popular procedures like in vitro fertilization and what it meant for contraception like IUDs. And so they're the dog, that caught the car, that caught the bumper, was chasing after the car and finally caught it. And then they realized, holy cow, this is not what we want. This is why we have, Floridians living under a 6-week abortion ban. And yet in Alabama, it's, a fertilized egg is still a human being. In Louisiana, you can't discard fertilized eggs. So what does that mean for IVF? And so they are scrambling, and they'll say whatever they need to try to cover themselves because they find themselves in really a non-viable position.
One thing, so something happened yesterday that reminded me of something happened specifically with you in the U.S. Senate. So after this happens, the Supreme Court finds that the 1864 law controls, and there's a lot of outrage. Democrats in the Republican state house, in both houses, say, hey, let's just right now override this. Let's say this law is not getting on the books. And they are stopped by Republicans. Something very similar happened with IVF. After that Alabama decision, people were freaked out about the possibility of IVF being banned. It was temporarily banned in Alabama. And you came to the Senate floor to say, hey, we have a bill to protect IVF. And what happened then?
Well, they objected. I asked for unanimous consent to pass my right to Assisted Reproductive Technology Act, to Build a Family Act, and they objected. And you know what they said they objected by? They said it was because my bill would end up in the potential for creating human-animal hybrid chimera babies.
Yeah, that's right.
And so let me make it clear. This is all on the Republicans. And in Alabama, by the way, they haven't restored IVF. All they've said in Alabama was, yes, a fertilized egg is a human being. We just won't prosecute you. So it's still potentially manslaughter. We're just choosing not to prosecute you. That's what they did with that law, which doesn't solve the problem where they have a problem now where they've defined a fertilized egg as having more rights than the woman who's going to carry that egg, that it's a human being, which is fundamentally at odds with procedures like IVF, where you have to discard fertilized eggs that are non-viable. Otherwise, you implant a fertilized egg, it can cause a miscarriage.
Right. And to that point, I mean, one of the reasons that we're seeing this is the central ideological tenet, a real belief is that life begins at conception. I mean, they've been saying that. I mean, again, we've been around listening to this. It's not making this up. I've heard it a million times in my life. If you believe that, as many people genuinely do, many people who are in the anti-abortion movement or the lifeblood of the Republican base, then you can't let embryos be discarded. You can't let people secure abortions at 10 weeks or 12 weeks. You can't do it. It's murder. And they really believe that. And now they seem trapped between that genuinely held belief by a lot of people and the fact that the politics of it are unworkable.
It's unworkable. And so what you're seeing is already happening across the country, which is you have this patchwork of laws and legislation, and some 160 years old, in Arizona. But you also have healthcare professionals leaving those states, coming to states like mine that welcome and to protect the women's reproductive health care. And by the way, this isn't just about women. This is also about men not being able to be fathers. In the military, we have high infertility rates among men. I started working on this issue in part also because of all of our veterans from Afghanistan who stepped on landmines and could no longer father their own children, need IVF. So now we're telling our military men and women, and, sorry, you can't, if you live in one of these states, and you can't have children, you can't start a family after you've defended our nation. So it is a patchwork. And so these states are going to lose healthcare providers, and the women in these states are going to find themselves without. It's not just about abortion. It's about not having OBGYNs who are willing to practice there because they're afraid that they're going to be charged with manslaughter for just doing their job.
Yeah, there are criminal penalties in that 1864 law that will become the law of the land, I think, in a few months. A little unclear what the timeline is, but that is what will be the controlling law in the state of Arizona in the year 2024. Senator Tammy Duckworth, thank you.